How Do I Music? A podcast by Nice Music.
And yeah, you always get people kind of talking about like, oh, when should people employ publicists? Like, at what point do you think it's like worth doing that? I just think it's so much later than most people do. Like, because that's the half the problem, is that there's just so much being sent to you, and it's like, I don't, most of those single campaigns or like really tiny artists must just be getting absolutely nothing back.
Hello and welcome to How Do I Music with me, Josh from Nice Music. This is a podcast that tries to not be boring whilst talking about the music industry, and if I fail to do so, luckily we've got people like Lisa Wright on today to make that happen for you. So, who is she? Well, she used to work for DIY Mag. This was recorded quite a while ago now. Keep that in mind when you hear all the Charlie and Brat talk. I mean, it's always Brat summer, isn't it? Even if it is 2025. Yes, that is this. This is that. What else am I saying? I don't know. But if you like what you hear, do find us on socials, How Do I Music, all of that stuff. But I really enjoyed this conversation. Lisa's wicked. She's used to work for DIY Mag. She has since gone freelance and is like writing for The Observer and stuff as well. So she is great. She had a piece about heartworms, which I really enjoyed reading recently. She's one of my favourite journalists in the game, so please do check her out and check out the rest of this pod. We jump straight in before, I say we jump straight in, we start before the quickfire round with some general just chat. I hope you don't mind mixing it up and we don't give a... Anyway, that was good Brat pre-round. We'll, that's it's
the only conversation that I've had for like 7 months.
I think it's great. I mean, I'm a massive. I think that kind of style of pop has been bubbling up with the kind of more brave production sort of things for a few years, and obviously Charlie's touched on it as herself for years. There was that "How I'm Feeling Now" album. It was quite experimental, and her collabs with Sophie, and it feels like this is the first album that's really had that, if you want to call it hyper pop in quote marks, influence has really taken over that next level, I think.
Yeah, I just think that I don't know. I think like obviously everything kind of comes in waves and things are a response to other things. And like, I think that it's probably not a coincidence that loads of fun music is coming out now in the sort of wake of lockdown and all of that kind of stuff. And I think it's like genuinely the most kind of exciting moment in like proper commercial pop. Like when you look at like who everyone is talking about and who's like genuine, who's not like cult underground cool people, but is like actually the mainstream. Yeah. Like that feels so exciting at the moment. But like just in general, like I think there was just such a kind of, introverted bedroom pop singer-songwriters, and some of those are great, but like for every Clairo there's like 50 just like sort of 16-year-olds singing about being 16, which is fine, but like there is only a sort of finite amount of experience that you've had at that point, and when you're getting sent kind of 20 of them a day, then like I can't remember who it was. I remember going to a gig a while ago, and both the support and the main, like the headliner, both had songs called 17 about being 17, and I'm just like, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, it's so like I love it when artists really lean into being young and don't try to be anything else and kind of talk about the youth experience and stuff, because when you're first getting into music, you want that. Like,
totally.
Like, I don't think anyone's born like really, really relating to like the nuances of Joni Mitchell, but like, so you need things that talk about where you're at in life. But I also think that there is something infinitely brilliant about watching like Self Esteem, who is in her 30s, who has so much life to draw from, who just has probably slightly more nuanced thought or just, more pots to kind of dig into. Yeah. Just because that's what happens as you get older. So it's been quite nice kind of coming out of that era of all of the things that land in my inbox being kind of variations on like young singer-songwriter doing a very similar thing.
Do you think, and also I guess pop stars, you touched on it there, are able and given a bit of leeway to not just perform in their 20s and then be somewhat irrelevant. Like you are seeing people like Charlie's in her 30s and Self Esteem going up another level in her 30s as well. And that weird stigma about basically having to be the super young person to be at the top of your game, it seems to be shifting. Hopefully it will.
Well, as a person in their 30s, it is very nice to see people thriving and still doing. Well, I mean, like I was doing an interview with KJ Pearson the other week, who pointed out that Stevie Nicks didn't join Fleetwood Mac until she was like 31, 32, something like that. And, look at them. Bright young hopefuls, Fleetwood Mac. I really feel like they're going to go far. They got legs. I think it's really nice. And like, I just think that the variety of especially female experience that is being kind of, there's just so many different types of ways to be like a pop star now. Yeah. And you look at Chapel Roan and Charlie and Self Esteem and Sabrina Carpenter, and they're all so different.
Totally.
And like, I think that's just, like I did a piece with Mabel that was in the Standard yesterday. Plug. She was saying, it was actually really interesting that like she was saying that she found that really hard because when she first kind of came through, it was in this era of like super molded, the industry like makes you be one way. And she was saying that like she was just sort of pitted against so many other people and so like kind of had her own character drilled out of her so much that she was just like, I just had no idea who I was. And then on the next album, all of a sudden, like the sea change had happened. And what people now want is like authenticity and real people. And she was just like, I didn't even know how to do that because I'd spent the last 10 years being told what to like and told what to say and told who to be. And all of a sudden now I'm meant to be my real, true, authentic self. And I don't even know what that is anymore.
Yeah, right.
And like, I just thought it was such an interesting thing that like from the inside, if you want to stay relevant, or like if you want to kind of adapt to it, it's not even just about kind of music styles or, how you release your stuff. It's like the sort of person that you're expected to be. And like,
if you're now being told that authenticity is the priority, and that's one way to make you overthink what is your authentic self straight away. You're like, okay, what the fuck do I do now? Because I've been thinking about how I portray myself for the last decade. What now?
Yeah, it's an absolute overthinker's nightmare. Like, is this top authentic to me, or is this top more authentic to me? Like, which one of these shoes feels like the true me? Like, I think you'd go down an absolute wormhole. But, objectively, I think better now than then when it was kind of, the whole Ray story that we've all, I hope, learned a lot from. Or, you would hope that kind of the big major label bigwigs are now having some sort of internal meetings where it's like, okay, we probably need to not do that because we really fucked up there and dropped the ball, and like this woman is now like the most decorated award-winning woman in the country.
Yeah, exactly.
And whoops. So I would hope that means that people are kind of somewhat rethinking their methods.
I think so. I think also whether or not this is just convenient for bigwigs at labels as well, but you're getting a bit more experimentation, a bit more room for maneuver within the boundaries of pop music, I think. I quite like watching Rebecca Black's journey from Friday to now.
Yes.
I really enjoy her. I really like her music. And I just think it's a great story about how basically bullied off the face of the internet as a teenager, now coming back with really fucking daring, risky, hyperpop influenced pop music, and it's fucking great.
It's cool. She's like genuinely kind of like there's no like it's not like a sympathy vote that people are going to watch her shows. Like she's got like cool. We did like a digital cover with her at DIY when she was over here not so long ago, and like the writer went down to, I think she's playing at Heaven or something like that, and it's like the most intense fandom. It's really like people love her, and it's not, it's not kind of teeny boppers, and it's not kind of people going there that have just heard the Friday song. Like it's like real. I don't know, like she's really tapped into something there where like that so clearly is her. And like I think it's also just so nice to see that you can kind of, I guess in some sense fuck up, but also, I mean, was that a fuck up? Because, I'm pretty sure that she's made a lot of money off Friday. So I don't know, maybe it's just like a really, really financially lucrative.
I don't think she would have felt good. It felt good at the time, though.
No,
that can't have been a good point in her life. I'm sure it was everywhere, being bullied essentially by everyone across the world for a year.
We saw what happened to the Milky Bar kid, right?
Totally.
Like that went...
Yeah, totally. So yeah. I mean, objectively, I don't think that if she put that song out now, I don't think that the world would have let it get to that point, because I think everyone is a lot more aware maybe of not, or I don't know, maybe people like to present that they're aware of not doing the pile-on. Yeah. But I think we'd probably get bored of it quicker. I think I think the bullying wouldn't have lasted as long. It might have lasted a week, and then
that's actually really true. Yeah, and then the next
the next person,
the next meme would have come along, and I mean, what's happened to Demure Mindful Girl? She's already
that's
lost to the sounds of time, isn't she? Haven't it?
It's basically
for like a hot second they were writing it on like the coffee boards outside, like your local place, and then now.
You've got two options. You either fade into obscurity or you start a podcast in that week and carry on. That's take your pick.
She really should have done. That's so true, actually. How to have a demure and mindful autumn. I did just think it was funny, though, that obviously people responded to that meme so much because everyone was going like, oh, well, it was Brat Summer and now it's this. And it's like, it is, if I was her, I would have found it very amusing that like the zeitgeist had gone from this like incredible pioneering pop star to just like me sitting in a car. It's like truly the internet is very it's an open playing field.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's fickle as well.
yeah, both of those things at once.
All right, this is actually a podcast about you mainly, so let's
okay, love it.
So it starts with a quick fire round, so I'll just jump straight into it. And the quick fireness seems to differ from person to person, so no pressure really. Name and occupation.
My name is Lisa Wright. I'm a journalist. I am mainly I'm the features editor at DIY, but I also freelance for various bits and bobs.
Last time music moved you, made you cry or dance?
I went to Wonder Horse last night. He was playing Brixton. And it wasn't even so much that, I mean, I did find it moving, but I found it very, very lovely being in a room full of like men being really like wrapping their arms around their mates, just like yelling these really, I felt like a very sort of like safe space for men thing. And like also he's got a song called Teal, that's sort of about, like, he was in a band called Dirty Pretties. He was absolutely not in that. He was in a band called Dead Pretties.
Last song you listened to, would it be that? I guess you were listening to
No, I've just been listening to Brat all morning. The remix Brat, yeah.
Great. And explain what you do in 3 words.
Oh, God. Interviews, editing, journalism.
Panicking.
Yeah, that's actually panicking's actually quite a large part of it, I'd say. That feels appropriate. There we go. Interviews, editing, panicking. Great.
Take it back to the start. Can you tell us a bit about your background, your growing up, and how you fell in love with music and journalism, when you decided to make it a big part of your work? How did it all come about?
I'm from Colchester in Essex, and there is one venue in Colchester which didn't really have that much kind of coming through it. So it's weird actually. Like I think because like my dad especially is like super, super music fan. Like I grew up, like the Beatles were like the Bible. So like I was kind of just surrounded by, and he had like really cool music taste. Actually, I was like really, really lucky that like, you know, he'd have like Zappa and Captain Beefheart and like, you know, XTC and all of those kind of like weird, the Fall bands like that he loved. But then also, you know, Beach Boys and the Beatles and things that were like more kind of accessible to like a young person. But like, I think I was so sort of in that even though I wasn't like going to loads of gigs when I was younger, it felt like very, I don't know, like it was just very normal to be listening to music all the time. And then I think like just started going up to like, you know, doing all your Saturday job money, going up to London for things, didn't study journalism. And like, I really don't think that at any point it really sort of clicked that even though I'd been like buying NME religiously every week since I was like 15, I don't think it really clicked that I could do that was like a job that was available to me. Because I think, you know, it's one of those things where like if you don't see it, you don't know that you can do it. And like I think, you know, nobody in my family works in like the arts or anything like that. I didn't know anyone that had done that. It just felt like a thing that I really enjoyed reading. And then I think when I was like, no, I was definitely still at uni, so like 19, something like that. NME had a competition where you like submitted a review of something and then they picked a winner and the next week they sent you off to a gig to do like a little review. I was like, oh shit. Did that, won it the first week, entered the second week under a pseudonym with a really bad photo of me with like a hat on in the shade. And then won it a second time. And then I like emailed the woman at NME who like coordinates all the work experience and stuff like that, Karen, legend, and was like, I know that I probably shouldn't have done that, but like you have picked me twice in a row, so can I come in and do some work experience for like an internship or something? So I went and did a week's work experience there and never stopped.
Were you always writing when growing up, or was that something you just realised you were good at later on? Were you writing about music consistently, or was that your first time? When
I'd like been sort of doing. I'm trying to think of what the timeline was, because like I definitely started writing loads for like just free websites and things like that.
Sure.
Like the kind of early, there's one called like Subculture, which was. Yeah, if you remember that. And some other bits and bobs. I can't really remember whether I'd started doing that before I started doing those things at NME or kind of around the same time. Like it was definitely, like I definitely never written, like I didn't do journalism. I did like English and drama really.
Yeah.
It's sort of, as soon as that became something that was like an option to me, I was like, oh right, well that's obviously the only thing that I ever want to do now. Because like I have spent the whole of my sort of later teenage years just using all of my like sort of, you know, like part-time job money just on, you know, it was just like the only thing that I really fucked up my A-levels because I was just like, just didn't care anymore. It was just like, I mean, I say fucked up, you know what, it was fine. But in the grand, you know, I should have done better. But
I did similar.
Yeah, I just think when you find other things that are more exciting to you, and I was just like I always really loved school and I loved learning and I was a massive nerd and like all of this stuff. But like, as soon as I kind of, and I was like really into like drama and being a, you know, little theatre kid. And like just that stuff and the combination of that and like finding like indie. And, you know, that was kind of, I know it was funny actually that like when they announced that Kaiser Chiefs employment 20-year anniversary thing the other day, I was just like, fuck, like that out now. Like when you talk into like 2024 about the Kaiser Chiefs, like it feels like not a cool reference point. But like in 2004, man, like when that first album first came out, it was like my world blew apart.
It's weird that Kaiser Chiefs didn't stand the test of time, considering that they were, I remember they were in my head at least. How much this counts, I don't know. But like on a par with the Killers and Kasabian, who went on to become like Goliaths of, you know, indie rock music and move beyond that 2000s era. Kaiser Chiefs just didn't manage to do this.
Well, I think it's twofold. One, because the main songwriter left after like the second album, and then it all went rapidly downhill in terms of quality. And also, I think when he joined The Voice, it was just like, oh, right, okay, well, you've just sort of sold your soul to the corporate devil. I think it's quite hard, you know, indie, maybe less so now. Like, I think people are a bit more like, you know, fuck it, like everything is culture, you know. But like, I think at that point, for someone in like a kind of quote unquote alternative band to go on like reality TV essentially was just like, you're dead to us. Like, you are dead to us. Never cross the entrance of Brixton Academy again. Otherwise, you're like, yeah, I just think it felt like, I don't know, like you couldn't do both. So
I think now people don't care as much.
No, it's like, make your money, you know? There's no money in music most of the time. Like, you know, everyone's having to cancel tours because it's so expensive to tour. You know, you get 0.00001p for every stream. Like, yeah, go and do The Voice if that's going to sort of keep you making albums. But I just think that wasn't the mentality at the time.
So all of that led you to this point where you're now the features editor and live event editor at DIY Mag.
We're like a tiny team. So there's kind of 4 of us, like on staff editorially, and then our publisher, and then obviously like a whole team of freelancers. And like everyone kind of just has to do a bit of everything. So like, you know, in a week I could be going down to like supervise a cover shoot and like, you know, getting like mad. You know, we did a cover with Soft Play recently where we had these like 2 6-foot teddy bears with them. So I was just like on the tube with like a bear under each arm, getting the weirdest looks from people imaginable, like trying to just like get these 2 life-size man bears over to a studio in Hackney Wick. And then, you know, the next day you're doing an interview and like, you know, maybe in person, maybe just zooming people, and then like editing a bunch of stuff. Then you're like having horrible, you know, stressful email conversations with people that have been stuff off last minute. Then, you know, maybe podcast. We did a podcast live thing the other day. So like I was kind of hosting that at the Social in London. And then, yeah, it's like there's loads of, it's great. And then obviously summer is just festivals and things. Like it's very, I think if you're someone that kind of thrives off being busy and like I really actually like the plate spinning side of it.
How much do you prioritize the smaller artists versus so you're going to be trying to acquire you're pitching for the bigger ones, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like it kind of varies really. Like I think one thing that we're really good at DIY, which I'm really pleased with, is like, you know, we were the first mag to give Self Esteem a cover.
Yeah.
Like right at the start of that Prioritise Pleasure campaign. And then I feel like after that, like, you know, I'm not saying that we were the reason, but like, you know, I think it was really nice to kind of do these things where it felt a little bit like we were making a bit of a statement by saying this person feels like someone who should be a cover level artist.
Nice.
And then lots of other people started putting them on the cover, and it felt like, you know, it was just really nice to kind of be at the front of that. And same for like CMAT on this album. I think we were like the first big cover that she did, and now obviously she's everywhere. I saw actually when I was walking around Brixton yesterday, like there was a massive poster for the Royal Albert Hall, and it was just a big picture of her. And I thought, that's bonkers that like out of everyone that has played at the Royal Albert Hall, like, you know, like Paul McCartney chosen a picture of CMAT to represent the venue. Is like absolutely fair play. That's great. So I think it's like a real balance of elevating. You know, we just did a cover with Big Pig ahead of she's announcing an album very soon, and like things like that where we're kind of going like, okay, we're really like sticking our flag to the mast of this person and like trying to elevate that. But then obviously, you know, a Green Day cover will just sell more. so it's nice to do those. There are different reasons to do different things, and sometimes it's just because they have a massive fan base and it's just a no-brainer because they're a huge global band. But sometimes, you know, it's about kind of showing what we're about as a brand, and what we're about is not just, you know, putting someone on the radio, or not just kind of blindly doing anything because it's got massive TikTok numbers. It's more about kind of genuinely standing behind stuff on like a taste level, or because it feels like culturally important, or like those sort of things. So I think, you know, like, did that CMAC cover sell as well as, I don't know, Paramore? Like, no, but it felt like an important thing to do, and to then be like sort of part of, hopefully, you know, a tiny part of that story of kind of her growing and becoming this like sort of amazing cultural force.
What's a piece that stands out in your mind as one of your favourites in your career? And can you talk us through the process between the idea to the final product?
Yeah. It's weird sort of trying to think of those, because like obviously some of the things like that Self Esteem one felt really great because we got her to guest edit it. We really wanted to do something where like it was like we just loved her and like knew, I mean, again, like without sounding like we just knew before everyone else, but like you know, like she'd done bits with like the first album, but like, you know, and I'm just like, like it's with her, like it's not just about, you know, the music is incredible, but she's incredible.
Yeah.
And like she just needs to be able to just be Rebecca, like in like as much of a kind of fully rounded way as possible. So just like, okay, we'll get her to guest edit it. She can sort of like pick loads of stuff. We can give her like a platform to just talk about the stuff that she cares about and to be funny and, you know, passionate about all of the stuff that she likes. So we did that. And then we did this mad photo shoot where we dressed her up as like a sort of, like she was on a chaise longue, which was actually the month that Wet Leg Chaise Longue came out, and Baxter Jury's memoir chaise longue came out. So it was like a very chaise longue heavy month. Weird how those things tie in together sometimes. But yeah, we did that, and we were like, you know, she had like fans and ladies in waiting and all this kind of stuff, and that was really fun. I went down to Margate to do the feature. She took me to the cafe where Pete Doherty ate his big breakfast. We didn't do the big breakfast, sadly. So that felt great because it felt really like properly investing in a person and trying to sort of tailor it as much to them as possible, which is, I think, kind of when things work best.
What about a project that hasn't gone as well? What are some common mistakes that you see, without, you don't have to name names, but for any budding journalists out there, what are some pitfalls and mistakes they can avoid? What's some of the projects that didn't go quite so well for you?
Yeah, I mean, like so many, but I think things go well and things go badly in different ways. I think like obviously everyone has had the world's worst thing, which is when the things don't record, and then you have to go back and like try and do another and try and redo the interview in a way that's like, you know, zingy and natural, and you both know that you're just going through the motions, and even though you're trying desperately not to make it sort of sound like, to try and add some new bits, which is like, I actually really want you, can you just say that thing that you said before, but I just need you to say it in your own words so that I'm not paraphrasing it. Like that's always obviously a nightmare. I think like, I don't know whether it's really a specific example, but like, I think one thing, if we're talking about kind of mistakes and stuff that I kind of would always say, or would always kind of advise people not to do, is like, I think there was a real tendency for a little while for people to kind of really write themselves into the piece. And like, I love it when it's like, I love knowing who the writer is. Like, I always really liked it when I would read Enemy as a kid, and they'd have like little byline photos, and you felt like you were kind of invested in a person and their taste, and you had your favorite writers and all that kind of stuff. So like I love that, but I really think that there was like some people, like I just definitely find myself editing out if any kind of freelancers start kind of doing the like, I was sat here having a thing, and they said to me, and you know, as a person who's you know, Beyonce told me that she really likes eggs, and as a person who's always liked eggs, I just really found that the comment about the eggs, and like, you know, obviously that is a ridiculous example, but I think like that school of profile writing, which I think, without naming any people, was quite a thing for a bit. I just always find that quite hateful, like, because at the end of the day, like, you can put personality into stuff. You can put personality into your writing without it being about you. And I think like that's the main skill, is to kind of have a style and to make it like zingy and funny, or, you know, moving, or whatever the tone of the thing is, without like kind of feeling like you're the subject of the thing rather than the actual subject of the thing. I feel like that's not really the question that you asked.
Do you think that comes from inexperience, or a bit of an ego move, or a bit of both?
I think it almost comes from like getting a bit too
heady.
Yeah, I think I definitely can see that, like, because, you know, as the journalist, you're like, you know, your name's on the thing, but you're not like the star. And I definitely think that you see it sometimes with people who maybe are getting a bit more of a profile, where like they kind of forget that a little bit, and and it's like.
Do you think that's a reflection on culture a bit, because you're seeing a lot of media? You know, you've got YouTubers, you've got reaction videos, you've got essentially influencers who are taking the role as in some ways as reviewers, and you've got people like, obviously, Fantano being one of the biggest music journalists out there, and a lot of his reviews, he gets his personality very much across in his YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Do you think that is just a cultural shift that you might be seeing in younger people because of influencer culture, maybe?
That's interesting, actually. Yeah. I mean, I think like very possibly, but then I just think with that, even, you know, someone like Fantano is established and a sort of personality in his own right. And obviously, you know, he had to do all these things to get to that point. But I just think like, you just see so much of stuff where it's like, and I don't know, maybe I am a bit regressive, and I need to get with the times and get with the kids. But I just think like, well, you know, if you haven't shown me why I should care specifically about your opinion on this, like, you know, as far as I'm aware, you're just like a person on. I don't know. I'm not a, you know, I think there was when we're kind of talking about like influencers and the way that kind of the industry has changed and stuff, and like I'm sure that if I was, you know, a teenager, then I would probably think completely differently. But like as someone that came up through, you know, proper print magazines, where like, you know, just I just think like, show me why I should care about your opinion.
Yeah.
I think there are certain things where it has like, where, you know, like TikTok has made loads of stuff feel like accessible, and like I've got a cousin who is, what's she now, like 14, something like that. And like she's found so many like old bands that have kind of re-emerged through TikTok. I took her to go and see the Pixies, and I'm pretty sure that she's only aware of them because, you know, there's a couple of songs that have been on TikTok trends, which I find absolutely mad. And things like that is great. And if it's exposing kids to music that they might not have ever found, because it does seem to have some sort of, you know, the way the algorithm works, you know, it really does kind of like dredge up just random songs from the past and just give them a new lease of life. Like I so remember this guy, he's one of the guys in Los Campesinos had like a solo project called Sparky Deathcap. And I remember it so clearly because I was like an absolutely huge Los Campesinos stan. Still am really. And I remember messaging him on MySpace, which tells you when this was, and like ordering, and he would like hand burn CDs and just like, you know, write out your address and do a thing. Like, you know, it was the sort of thing where he maybe had like 50 people bought that record. And then it just had this absolutely bonkers, one of the tracks on it had this bonkers like TikTok moment last year where like he ended up signing to like Universal to just like put out that song as just like a one single deal, and it's got like, you know, 50 million plays. Like how stuff like that happens is wild to me. And like I kind of love it, and I think if it's kind of giving maybe songs that never had their moment in the sun, they're kind of long overdue dues, then great. But I do think that the kind of everyone's a critic, everyone's doing, you know, like you say, the kind of to camera videos about stuff. Is it necessary?
Who else in the industry, whether it's journalism or music, do you think has a good story to tell? And I should try and reach out to interview on this podcast. Who do you want to listen to? It can be someone you know, it can be someone you don't know, and you can send me on a wild goose chase.
I'm trying to think of like sort of the more wild stuff. I mean, like I think just on like a really grassrootsy sort of level, like someone who I really look up to at the moment is Nice Swan, the label. There's a guy called Pete Hayward that runs it, who's like been a mate for years, and I first met him when he was just like repping shows, and he just like started, I think he put out maybe like the first 7-inch of this label, and then now it's like turned into a management thing. They manage English teacher, like, you know, and who just won the Mercury, and it's like he's just sort of grown from like, you know, he was this like sort of like fun guy who always wore a cowboy hat that used to just like come in and rep shows for the promoters that I worked at, and now like he's grown this thing into like the most like sort of exciting band in the country that have just won the Mercury, and I think like he's really great.
It's not too dissimilar to what you're now finding labels and managers tell their artists to do, which is to music can't be, and in this case, you know, the written word, the print press can't be the only thing that you're monetizing or the only product that you have, if you want to call it a product. And basically everyone's having to become more or less an all-in-one media like output. Same with your artists as well.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
You tell people all the time now that you can't just be releasing music. It's just that's not good enough. Doesn't matter how good you are.
And I think we'll probably put off, I mean, I don't know, like I'm sure that we've both had like so many conversations with people where it's like, it's actually, I think it will put off a lot of people from actually kind of trying to do things because it's like, I don't want, like, there's so many, I mean, like in Wonder Horse yesterday, it's like a prime example where it's like, I think it's kind of amazing to see how well he's done because, like, I mean, we did a shoot with him a few months ago and you can barely get the boy to, like, look at a camera. Like, he's just, like, the most, like, hates it, just hates every part of, like, promoting stuff, doing the thing, you know, like he doesn't have a phone. He literally just doesn't own a phone, which is like my mate does his PR and it's just like it's a nightmare. But has managed to kind of break through. But I think, you know, he's such a rarity. Where and like for every one person that manages to, there's probably like hundreds of bands or hundreds of artists that like just aren't built to do this sort of, you know, all of the stuff that all of the big pop girls were sort of speaking about not so long ago, where it's like your label's asking you to make a TikTok every day and to do this every day. And it's like, there's no, that's so time consuming to actually do that to a high quality level.
Yeah.
And also like, that's not what I signed up for. And, I think it's really hard not to be in that mentality, because like, I definitely think sometimes, when we're having to talk about like, I don't know, like social media strategy and stuff. And I'm just like, I just like writing about bands. Like, this is not, if somebody had told me in 2010, when I was like first starting out, that like, it just wouldn't be enough that you were a good writer anymore. Like, you'd have to, and it's not even just about having different irons in fires. It's like, as I was saying right at the start, kind of, I love doing all these different bits. I love kind of working on shoots and doing the podcast and doing, the live shows. We booked a festival a couple of years ago. Like, we've done tours and like all of that stuff that feels like very kind of genuinely related in my mind.
Yeah.
Is like very enjoyable. But when, like, I think maybe like Loud and Quiet or someone tweeted something the other week, which I was like, oh my God, that's completely spot on, where it's just like every journalist is now sort of like a fledgling marketing manager or something like that, where it's just like every magazine, you have to be, you sort of just have to try and know these things. And it's like, we're all just sitting in a room trying to figure out the best way to kind of beat the, Instagram algorithm. And it's like, none of us know this. This is actually mad that there's so much that it's just turned into something so different, and that is such a specific skill set.
Yeah.
But you sort of just have to try and figure it out and do your best and kind of try and work with these things. And it's, it changes all the time.
And it's an ongoing theme that I talk to a lot of people, and everyone seems to be battling with. And some people like that aspect and some people don't. But if you think about how if that becomes a gatekeeper in itself, which is your social media skills, your willingness to get in front of camera, I just can't imagine a 90s Tom York, for instance, going up, just going on TikTok.
Exactly.
Honey, it's mad.
Exactly. And like, how many like Radioheads will we miss because they just can't do that side of it? And like, and it's never, and I think, to kind of bring it back round, like, that's what we sort of try and make sure that we're doing, is like, it's so easy to get sucked into numbers and stats, and like, 90% of press releases nowadays will, like, the top line will be like, they've had a massive viral hit with this, and it's like, okay, well, great. Well, like, sort of everyone has at this point, haven't they? But like, we sort of really try to find a balance between like being aware of this stuff, that like, and that, if someone has genuinely had a meaningful breakthrough on one of these platforms, not to just like, that's obviously what the kids are listening to, so like, we should be paying attention, but also just to not be completely swayed by that. Because I think like, like a thing that I feel like I talk about all the time with people is like, you can have literally like millions of streams and you can't sell out like the Shackle alarms. And it's like, it just actually doesn't, like, numbers just don't equate to fandom at all, I don't think anymore. Like, because people aren't a fan of that artist, like, they're a fan of maybe not even that song, maybe like 20 seconds of that song. And it's like, if that's actually, that's not going to translate to anyone going to a gig or like caring about what that person releases next, or if they have an album. So it's like, we're sort of, for people to want to read a profile about something, they need to be like actual fans of the person and the body of work, and not just that sort of like, tiny 30-second viral moment. So it actually doesn't make any sense for us to just purely be following that stuff, because I would personally much rather do something with someone that, can sell out Kentish Town Forum and maybe doesn't stream that well, than the other way around, because it just feels like that's actually the people that we should be kind of aiming for more.
Well, you touched on it there, if you're receiving pitches from people saying, this person's had a viral moment, you must be getting that all the time now. What is something for publicists out there who want to capture your attention? What are the best ways to do that when they're pitching to you?
Yeah, I think the stuff that feels more tangible connections to fans. So I think if someone's like sold out their first few shows on the back of like not very much, like there's a girl called Love Cat who is really exciting, I think, who is doing big things on like TikTok, but also has sold out every show within minutes, and like is doing it's just sold out Moth Club and has only had and like has like 2 songs, I think by the point that Moth Club sold out maybe had like 1 song out, and it's like that sort of thing where it's like, oh okay, like there is genuine like impact, like people will make an effort to go and watch that person and they're excited for what they do next, and things like that feel very like that just feels way more tangible. And not everyone can have those sort of things, but I think even just like, I don't know, I think it's so hard. Like I feel like it's a really hard time to be a PR because there is just so much and there's so few places to put it, and like it feels like fucking Hunger Games all the time in like my inbox. But I just think like, I don't know, the things that I appreciate is like people that really tailor stuff to where they're pitching it to. I think like we get so many emails of like people just pitching stuff that's just so not us. And it's like, come on, man. Like, you can see if you take the briefest of glances through our website, like the sort of things that we cover. Yeah. And like the sort of level, like we'll do new stuff, but like we're not going to put like someone that's had like, 2 songs and, is like got like 4 followers on Instagram, like on the cover, like, just being a bit realistic and tailoring things. And like actually, PRs that don't just blindly go, I think this thing's incredible and you should do it and I love it and it's great. And it's like, kind of, when people don't say that about everything, then the thing that they do say it about, it means so much more, right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
that it's not just like blanket, like everything's amazing, everything's great, here's another thing that's perfect. And you always get people kind of talking about like, oh, when should people employ publicists? Like at what point do you think it's like worth doing that? I just think it's so much later than most people do, like, because that's half the problem, is that there's just so much being sent to you. And it's like, I don't, most of those single campaigns or like really tiny artists must just be getting absolutely nothing back because there's no, like you don't have to immediately go all in and start paying people to try and do that because like there just isn't enough space on like, there's not enough space like on the internet to write about this stuff. Like we did, we did this podcast the other day with Joe Goddard, like a live version, and he was talking about kind of, what he was up to next. And he was just like, sometimes I do just think like maybe there's just enough music. Like maybe we should all just stop and just listen to the music that's here already for a bit. Like maybe we just don't need to add any more just for a while. And like, I do sometimes think that, where it's like, oh, there's just so much. And like, maybe if you're right at the start of things and there isn't really a huge amount of kind of momentum right now and you're just getting started, maybe just be happy to sort of be in that stage for a bit and let it kind of bubble up naturally rather than immediately throwing everything at it and, getting a PR to try and like do all this stuff. And it's just like, it's just too early, and that's fine. Like, that's not a bad thing. Like, just sit back a bit.
And I think there's so many other avenues in which, you can explore and try and get some momentum first. And like you said, you're not going to just come out of nowhere with the first single and get on the cover of DIY.
Even just in the new music stuff, we do 3 main sort of introducing profiles in the mag a month. Yeah. And then we'll do some like little kind of get to know questionnaires on the site. and a bulletin, like a weekly sort of new music roundup. And like that's a lot of separately, that's probably plus the extra little bits in the back. There's like, I don't know, 30, let's say, a month spots where in some capacity we can write about new stuff, which I think is like way more than most places. Like it's like a lot of stuff, but that doesn't even touch the sides of the stuff that we get sent. Like Daisy, our online editor, was saying, she kind of sorts out this new music bulletin every week. And she was saying the other day that like she'd had something like, it's like, like just a couple of hundred of like pictures or something like that for a week. And it's just like,
mad.
There's just you just can't like, and I don't believe that there are 200 good songs in a week that have been released from small bands. Like I
can't remember what
what
stat is though, because I work for a label and I can't remember what it is, but the amount of songs being uploaded to Spotify every day is just, I don't know if it was millions, but or hundreds of thousands, but obviously that does include a load of crap, like just rubbish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, but.
And it's like, I don't know, I just think it's sort of like, because, the sort of accessibility of being able to just upload stuff online and do so much for yourself is obviously amazing in so many ways. And it sort of takes away a lot of the kind of like class, like the inbuilt kind of class issues with how accessible getting into music is, which, I think we all know is like awful, especially now where if you don't have backing or funding, be that from a label or from like a parent, then I don't know how the fuck anyone manages to tour or do anything. And like, I'm so lucky that like when I first started out, I only had to do a week's work experience before I started being given little bits of freelance work. And I was, working 2 bar jobs on the side and sort of Tetrising everything into each other. But like fairly early on, I at least had like drips of money coming in from journalism that kind of felt like enough that I could like keep following that trail to the point where it like became my full-time job. Whereas like now I just think, I don't know how it's so hard for, young people, because there's so few places that pay. And like, if you go and intern at a label, they'll probably make you do like 6 months for free or for expenses, which nobody can afford to do unless you have, the means already to do it. And like, it's just so prohibitive. And, that's why we sort of end up with just like, and, I know that they have various diversity schemes that sort of I would hope kind of offer.
Yeah, but they're
they're
few and far between, aren't they? They're like there's only so
I
much
just like would have been fucked. Yeah. Like we like my mum worked in Superdrug and my dad worked in like a locksmiths, and like I absolutely just like there was no like there was no kind of handouts in that way. Like there was like no nepotism whatsoever. Like there was no easy foot in the door. And like I just think like the only way that I sort of managed to turn this into a sustainable career was like the fact that people like there was enough places that were able to give you like the first stages of a chance without that sort of like six months working for free, things doing this, and like, and there was just like a wider landscape of publications where like I like ended up doing like the review section at The Fly when that was a thing, and like just worked for lots of did some bits for like Noisy, and I don't know, it just felt like there was so many more places that you could pitch to where it was where you just got paid, which is just it's just really hard. And I think I don't know whether I would have managed to do it at this point in like the world.
Any tips that you can think of to any aspiring journalists that you could pass on? But I guess, like you said, it's just tough.
I think probably just trying to have as broad a skill set as possible, where like, doing this club night was really good because we would sort of we didn't make loads of money off it, but it would be like a little top up each time. But it also really ingratiated us with like labels and bands and management and stuff, like from like a really early level. So like we were putting on, like we did, it was just like a monthly one, but we did it for like 6 years or something like that. So like just the amount of people that you meet through that then, you're getting to know, you're like really on the ground in terms of like listening to stuff. So there was like loads of times where we'd put on a band at Antidotes who'd be great. And then I'd pitch that to NME for like a radar piece and you were just really in the scrum of it all. And like one thing sort of fed the other where like, if you found something good, then you could take it to another place. So I think just like being as involved as possible in those things and sort of trying to like make those little connections where like maybe one thing that you've done over here would be also good over there, and like just trying to build up that sort of network, but not in a kind of horrible LinkedIn way, like in a genuine way is probably about the best thing I can say.
You've been super generous with your time and I really appreciate it. And the final question would be to choose a song that we're going to play out to and tell us why.
Yeah, okay, that's obviously really hard. I would like, please, Romance, the title song of the Fontaines album, but specifically the bit where it like the bit where it kicks in. Because I just think that album is a triumph. And yeah, I saw them at Reading when I think it was maybe the day that the album came out, and it just felt like such a moment. And we did a really cool cover with them the other month, which I was really excited about. And I like fought really hard to get us to do the shoot in like the Leek Street graffiti tunnels. And it just came out really well. And it looks like sort of alien, like new, like sort of Cyberdog meets skate park meets like sort of cyborg. And it was just great. And I think it's like my favorite cover that we've done. And yeah.
How's that for a mix? I'm taking DJ bookings for weddings, for kids' birthday parties, for library open days, for, all of it. And but thanks to Lisa for coming on. She's great. And that was a really fun conversation. Some really good, useful tips for you. How to not pitch music and how to pitch music is always useful, isn't it? I guess do find her on socials, and if you she's on all the stuff. I know she's on Instagram. I assume she's on the rest as well. Sorry, Lisa, for not being more specific, but I'm sure if you type in Lisa Wright journalist on Google, you'll find all you need to need. That's the one. And what else is there to say? Oh yeah, that stuff. Please rate this podcast if you like what you hear. It really does make a difference. I know it's annoying to hear, and sometimes you just can't be asked, and that is fine too. But if you do be asked, then rate it with as many stars as you think is appropriate. But we recommend 5 because anything else, it's just just don't. Well, no, you can do what you want. But yeah, you get the gist. I've done my plugging now. Socials as well, at How Do I Music, wellnicemusic.com, at wellnicemusic on socials as well. That's about it. I'll see you next week and love you.
How Do I Music, a podcast by Well Nice Music.